But the challenge with above and beneath, again, these are metaphorical ideas to try to help us embrace another way of thinking. I recently heard a wonderful example of awareness. So consider this. This is almost a meditation right now. I want you to ponder. You're in a huge apartment building or a mansion, and you're in a particular room. At best, you are aware of that room. But you may then become aware that there's a door and a hallway and other rooms, other apartments. Well, let's say you begin to explore all these other things, and then you go back to that same room. All of a sudden, your awareness is considerably bigger. Even though you're in the one room, you are aware of an apartment building. You are aware of a mansion. Now think about it. When Jesus said, King James, I go to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house there are many mansions. Greek word dwellings. Was he really talking about all these different rooms that different people live in, kind of like a big apartment complex in heaven? And or better yet, because they're mansions, everybody has an acreage of land, and when you drive up to Will's mansion, it's this golden gate with a big double W on it for wheat, go up to the Mastro's, and you have this big M, because it's Mastro, No, it's the idea is that within God, there are all these multifaceted dynamics, and we can become aware of all of them. And actually, it's only the egoic mind that limits through separation that sense of awareness. That's the beauty of. Now understand, when I say meditation, I'm not just necessarily speaking about sitting over in a corner with your legs crossed and your eyes and humming, okay? Or reciting a verse over and over again. These are good. I am not saying they're not having their value, but what I am saying is practice. Today, for example, I went from my usual, I usually do 3 to 5 miles a day of my walk. Today, I felt knowing we were coming to this. Usually I'm listening to music or listening to an audiobook. Today I decided to do none of that and be present as I walked and to become just aware of my surroundings as I walked. What was entering my eyes, what was entering my ears. Okay, and when my mind would drift, sometimes I'd start humming a tune, I'd pull it back and say, no, don't do that, be present. Why? Because when I'm present, I'm like down at the bottom of the ocean. And it's there where 99% of the answers to life's problems are. Because that's where you and God are the same. That's where you're one. Interesting, when it says, if then you've been risen with Christ, that Greek word there starts with the word, it's soon. We would spell it like sun, S-U-N. It's pronounced soon. Soon means as one with. So if you be risen with Christ, that sounds kind of, there's Christ and you're risen with him. And it's kind of like two folks being risen together. But that word soon means you and Christ are one and the same being risen. That's presence. That's awareness. That's a different type of knowledge than information or contemplation even. It's I'm afraid to use words. Will talked about consciousness just a little bit ago, because these words can have different applications in different sentences for different things. So unfortunately, when it comes to words, they have a propensity to limit the communication, because sometimes the way I may use the word, you may have a different understanding, and that word is all of a sudden put into that context. That said, consider that meditation for a moment, that idea for a moment of being present, aware, and that being aware of being aware, that's a knowing that's more so than what my intellect can calculate. When I start living from there, this serves this, rather than this blocking what's truly here.
We said a lot. Now, I think this is a good place for anyone who got a question, because we just made a lot of statements here. Anything online that is asking a question? Okay, they need a couple of seconds to get the question through. I believe that this is. I'm so excited. I'm just. I wake up like this. I think Karen has affected me positively, and I'm really receiving her energy in my life. I believe that's a good thing. Amen. Because I came up to the thought this morning: who like to be around dead people? Nobody like to be around. I don't want to hang around nobody that dead folk, boring people, folks depressed. It's just a downer, man. And Jesus says, "Let the dead bury the dead." So there are folks who like deadness, but there are folks who are lively and the joy of God. And I attach that statement: "The joy of God is my strength." And if you can go and weather through things and still have joy. That is what the world that doesn't go to church, that don't read the Bible, is identifying as God's strength working through you. So it's really easy to just be, and learn how to just be, just relax in the fact that God has done the work and rest. Go ahead.
Yeah. When you said that, it's what struck me. When you struck about being just be, think of this phrase: human being. Most of us are not human beings. We're human doers.
Very good. Question D.
Okay, so obviously as someone who studied psychology, there is a symptom of depression called dissociation, where you kind of feel out of your body and quote unquote observing. Can you maybe dive deeper into the whole observing your own thoughts? Because I know dissociation can cause panic.
Thank you for your kindness. Thank you. Sure.
Describe it. It's almost like watching the TV.
Right.
And it's, your own body is doing this, that, and thinking these things. And that usually, and it happens when people are super high too, where they're like, I cannot control what this body is doing, or it's moving far too slowly.
Two things. First of all, disassociation, as I understand it, put it that way. I'm not a PhD I don't have a PhD in psychology, so I may be misspeaking, but disassociation is a result of trauma or some kind of affliction or something that's happened emotionally. So now I'm disconnecting. The thing I'm talking about, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, is a willful coming to an understanding of what's happening within oneself. It's actually centering yourself, not disassociating yourself. Okay, it's not seeing you from outside your body, things like that necessarily, although that's a whole nother discussion. We could talk about, that in the certain spiritual practices, there's things called astral projection and all that sort of stuff. I'm not talking about that. And I don't believe that's what B is asking either. This is coming from an acute emotional reaction to something, disassociation, where now I'm no longer able to cope with those feelings, so I disconnect and disassociate from it. Understand something. When you realize you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you are actually, the first step is you start to embrace what's happening right in front of you. Okay, we're not disassociating. In other words, if a trauma just happened, I realize the trauma has happened. The issue is because I am not my feelings in the respect that whatever feelings I'm going to have is now going to control everything I do. Instead, I can take a step back and say, you know what, I'm feeling fear right now, and I can embrace that. I feel fear. I got that, but I am not defined by fear, but I'm feeling fear. Okay? I'm feeling fear, but I am not fear. So I'm not going to react out of fear. Matter of fact, if I embrace it for a minute, Dr. Hawkins calls the principle of letting go, is embrace it. Let it run its course. And it flows through you. The riverbank, it's just something that I didn't get caught up in the current of the river. I've let it go past, and I just realized that's what I felt. Now, as that subsides, and sometimes certain feelings, especially if they go back to a childhood experience or whatever, because I've been suppressing for such a long time, it's not a 10-minute meditative thing and boom, my feeling is gone. This may be a practice over time that may take weeks, months, maybe even years. Okay, I mean, I was at a dinner with PK, our son Buster and Christina, and we were talking about actually some of these kind of things. And I was saying how emotionally I would react to things, and I was just explaining a situation I have. I'm a meditator. I'm a practicer of meditation. Not when I say practice, I don't mean going off just into a corner and meditating. I do that too, but at the same time, in my daily life, I'm always trying to be consciously aware and present. Okay. And I was telling Christina specifically that I had these certain feelings about a certain situation. Okay, and what God did was use airplanes to help me elevate my consciousness, and I mean consciousness now in a better sense of not asking questions. Maybe the word awareness is better in that sense. Elevate my awareness. And what was happening is when I walk, I was become very aware of airplanes. Partially, I'm a pilot, so I did years ago fly, and I would always be looking for, when I hear the sound of an airplane, I'd look for it. Well, the thing was, I got so emotionally involved with this person's stuff. This goes back a while. I'd hear the sound, and I wouldn't be able to find the airplane. And I felt the Spirit of God from down within, my true self, say, because of the turbulence in your mind, you can't see it. So then I had to, and I'm walking, which means understand, this doesn't have to happen in the corner of a room with your legs crossed, with your eyes closed, and your fingers pointing up. That's a good place to learn the practice. But now I'm out. I'm out and about walking. So then I began to become present. And no sooner did I become present and began to let those feelings go. Yes, I felt anger. I admitted all that stuff, and I just let it flow. Then guess what? I started seeing airplanes. That may sound like a totally juvenile way of explaining it, but that's where I was at. And I'm a guy that practices this stuff pretty regularly. This is something that's always on my mind. Point is, rather than disassociate, what I had to do is embrace and release. That is not going to be me, because that is not me. Okay, I'm done.
Work that choice. Working that choice, yes.
Just, there's a comment and a question. So the comment is from Unique Sunflower. Learn to understand your emotions to better handle them in a more healthy way. We have a question from Miles.
Hi, Miles.
The fourth thing that Will believes doesn't seem to agree with being one with God and having the creative power that God has. Will, would you please go over the fourth belief?
No, Miles, I said I used to believe that. I was talking about what I used to believe and I used to teach, not what I presently believe and teach now. I hope that answers. Well, he misheard me.
Ask another question.
Let me go back. I go back over these points again. Hold on. Maybe that's probably why it was misunderstood, because I just jumped down to the four things without reading what I wrote previously. What I wrote before I listed those four things was to extend a fundamental aspect of God, which he gave to his son in the creation. God extended him to his creations and endowed them with the same loving will to create. You have not only been fully created, but have also been created perfect. There is no emptiness in you because of your likeness to your creator. You are creative. No child of God can lose this ability because it is inherent in what he is, but he can use it inappropriately by projecting. The inappropriate use of extension or projection occurs when you believe that some emptiness or lack exists in you and that you can fill it with your own ideas instead of truth. This process involves the following steps, and that's what I used to teach when I was talking about the process. First, you believe that what God created can be changed by your own mind. And if we listen to our old selves before we started getting into this awareness, we did believe in that. We in some form or another, maybe not exactly as I wrote it, but in some form. Second, you believe that what is perfect can be rendered imperfect or lacking. That's that belief in separation. and thinking that God has created somebody who's destined for hell, torment, and fire, or that karma is going to work against you. I always say that word karma wrong. And because of your karma, you're going to have bad experiences, so forth and so on. Third, you believe that you can distort the creations of God, including yourself. And fourth, you believe that you can't create yourself, and that the direction of your own creation is up to you. That is not true. Now, you can become aware of, like in Jeremiah, God says, I know my thoughts toward you. You can discover, as we were talking about on Friday, what I'm learning to do is to discover my there. I'm already there. In my human person, I'm trying to get there, but in Christ, I'm already there. And this is just a process of me awakening to what's already there and present with me. Also, as everybody was talking, as B was talking earlier, John was talking, I'd like to add this. Everybody experiences different because everybody has been programmed different. And we all don't respond to the same challenge like everybody else. I used to think something was wrong with me because I didn't feel certain things that people felt. I would have the experience that I don't feel like that. And I'm listening to people talk about how they feel and how traumatized they were. And I'm thinking, something like that happened to me. I didn't come off feeling that way. Is there something wrong with me? And no, it's how we are programmed to respond to issues in life. And then there is no one thing that fixes everything. Every person is individualized and have to be dealt individually.
I want to pick up on programming for a minute. And I realize the venture I'm going off into may be very, very tender territory for some folks because it's intentionally been, the programming is so we would become tender. One of the great, what would I call, authorities, teachers on marketing, did a master class. His name escapes me at the moment, but I remember watching this master class on marketing. And he made an interesting statement. He said, never is a successful sale repeated over and over again based on what benefit you're going to get from a product. In other words, if you buy my product, you're going to get $10. Wow, I can use $10. That's not how you sell. The way you sell is, if you don't have my product, you're never going to get $10. Notice the negativity here. Okay, notice that how, in other words, you are lacking $10 right now. And because you don't have it, I'm going to create a desire for you to get it, but I'm going to bring your awareness to the negative. You don't have $10, and unless you buy my product, you're going to still not have it. Now think of politics right now. One of my friends in England has been teaching economics for over close to 30 years now. And he says the premise of economics in the world is built on one principle only, and it drives me nuts as an economics teacher that I have to start there and then explain it to my students. He's a professor in university. And that's this. Economics is built on lack. Yes. The premise of economics is lack. Who doesn't have and who has. That's it, and it's based on that. It's not that fact that if you actually look from an economic standpoint, the entire world could be provided for very easily. But it doesn't work. It's built on lack. So what's the programming? So we turn on your favorite, news station. And like, for example, I was talking to somebody, and hopefully nobody gets offended, but if you do, then you're programmed. I would be that bold with you. Turn on Fox News. Here's the thing. Fox News is not news. Fox News is a conservative news magazine. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's just be honest. Whatever news is reported there is only going to support its audience. Full stop. That's marketing. And laced in it is that if you go somewhere else, you're going to lack.
Right.
That's how marketing works. I'm not saying other news stations don't do it. I'm just picking on that because that was my news station for 18 years at one time until the light bulb went off. The key is this. The programming becomes so intense that when God is trying to move us from within into another place, we hit the walls of these programmings. And rather than actually bring down the walls, crack the walls, break the walls, and enter into another level of awareness, we just go back to these other sources that agree with us that whatever bias I have that's created the wall is the true wall, and I stay stuck in the wall. To the point where a person I actually may be able to reach out and touch, I won't touch them because now I'm looking at them as an opposition because the wall tells me they are. That said, it's about programming. Do you realize where your programs are? I had another friend say to me, for example, I can't listen to that. That makes me too angry. That's because you're programmed. It's not because you can't listen to it. It's because you're programmed. I'm not saying what they're saying is good or true or right or wrong. That's not the point. And it may be horrible. But I don't have to react that way. I don't have to respond that way. I love the times where Jesus was accused of something and the Bible just says he walked through the crowd.
That's right.
He didn't turn around like, you threw stones at me. Well, I'm picking up stones and throwing them at you because I'm right and you're wrong, and because I'm right and I'm the Son of God, God's on my side, so my stones are bigger than your stones. I hope you're understanding. Programming becomes very important. Learning how to deprogram, in a sense, is to realize where these barriers start to show up. What is the emotional response? That's not really you to begin with, but that's where the programs lie.
For you to answer, John.
Oh.
That came in. I think this is Miles. This is Miles. All right, Miles writes.
Okay.
So since God created us, are we not able to change ourselves? I got an answer for this, but I'll let you go first. If someone has an issue with anger, depression, or substance abuse, are we able to change our programming?
Absolutely.
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 Absolutely. Yes.
You understand, there are three types of thinking. Let's put it this way. There's what I would call abstract thinking. There is another one that's I would call focused thinking. And then there is awareness and being present thinking, okay? Abstract thinking is what happens when you're sitting in a room and all of a sudden your mind starts going and you begin thinking about the groceries you got to get, and then you begin thinking about the television program. You begin humming a song. This is your mind just running. This is all abstract stuff. You're not present. You're not in the moment. Then there's focus. Okay? Then there's focus things. What's focus? You're sitting in front of a computer, for example, and you're doing data entry, and it has to be done a certain way. So now you're very focused, and you're reading what's there. And okay, you're still not really present and aware of what's happening around you. What's happening is you're focused in the task in front of you. Okay? What happens to most of us is we never get to awareness and presence. Most spiritual teaching, dear Lord, why is it that we've had to take a look at church services, for example, and learn to program our church services for a 20-minute message, a 10-minute worship, okay? Because we realize people's attention span doesn't go that far.
Usually 40 minutes.
Okay? Yet, in a country, say, like India, you go out to as a missionary, people will walk 2 to 3 hours to get to your 5-hour meeting and be totally happy for the 5 hours.
Yeah.
What? It's a different mindset. That's the bottom line point. We've been programmed. Part of our programming is focus. We don't like abstract thoughts because the abstract thinking usually will find its way to our base emotions, our fears, our concerns, and before you know it, we're worrying about the investment that we need to make because we didn't make it yet and all that stuff, and we're living somewhere in the future or somewhere in the past. We're not being present. Then we move to focus. Another thing about focus is after we work, 8-hour day, we're working on a particular thing. We're very focused. Maybe it's even good work. Maybe you're a doctor and you're helping people and you're helping. Now you get done. And this is what we say to ourselves. I need to go rest now, so I'm just going to sit in front of the TV and veg. What are you doing? You're still focused. You've just changed the focus. You haven't been present yet. The answers to our life's issues is in being present, not where we're putting our focus. We may even do this, because I've done this, put on an audiobook about a topic that I want to learn and listen to, but I'm still focusing. I'm not being present. I'm not coming into that place of awareness. I hope I've answered you.